Okay, so this was page 44 last night, number 5. Standing 50 meters from the base of a fir tree, Rory used a protractor to measure the angle of elevation of 33 degrees to the top of the tree. How tall was the tree? Okay, so the first question, we have angle of elevation there in italicized. So let's draw a picture. I want my picture to be I'll use green for a tree. That's my semi-realistic approach. So in a fir tree, okay, that's kind of like, let's on this one. Okay, so we got this tree, looks something like, this is not a good picture, by the way. Don't hold me accountable for this. It's Christmas time. Wow. That is awful. Okay. Anyways, we have this tree, and Rory is right here. Now, I was talking about the angle of elevation. There's a slight issue in this problem. I'll talk about it in a second. But your angle of elevation goes from straight ahead, so the horizon line there, to the top of the tree. It's going to create this right triangle right here. That's 33 degrees. And he's standing 50 meters from the base of the tree. So the question is, how tall is a tree? So this is a pretty straightforward question. Do you see an issue with the way that the problem's worded, though, as far as what my angle looks like? It would be kind of nitpicky. What I'm looking at here is, since my angle of elevation is from their eye level up, I mean, I guess maybe they're assuming it's from ground level up, but we might take into account. Yeah, maybe he's laying down. I think sometimes they use that angle of elevation to go actually from the ground up. But let's say I drew it measuring from eye up. So we're not taking this into consideration right now, so don't worry so much about that. So we're just looking for x there. So how would we write this equation using trig functions? Daniel.
Tangent of 33
So tangent 33
equals x over 50.
Perfect. So little explanation here. Since we're starting at this angle 33 degrees, we have to figure out which sides we have in relation to that 33. So we have this side that's opposite, and we have a side that's adjacent. So since we have opposite and adjacent sides, and if we remember our SOHCAHTOA, tangent is the trig function that uses opposite and adjacent sides. So that's why we're using tangent there. And then it's opposite over adjacent, so that's why we have x over 50. Okay, questions about the trig function and how we set the formula up? Okay, from right here, it's pretty easy algebra. Just multiply both sides by 50. Okay, so multiply both sides by 50, and we get x equals 50 times tan 33, which is, anybody?
32.47.
32.47. And that should be meters, right? Double check to make sure that that sounds like that could work, and it does. Good to go. Questions there? Okay, this was number 40, or page 46, numbers 8 and 9. So we have a continuation problem here. So let's draw the picture. Standing on the cliff, 380 meters above the sea, Pat sees an approaching ship and measures its angle of depression, obtaining 9 degrees. How far from the shore is the ship? Okay, so now Pat is on the top of this cliff right here. Now here's where I was talking about earlier. The angle of depression goes from parallel to the the ground, or in this case the sea. So we have this down to the ship. Okay, so that's your angle of depression right here. A lot of people mistake it for this angle that's below, that goes from straight down to the vertical, but it's not. And your angle of depression is the same as the angle of elevation because of the parallel lines that are formed. So you have here, this is obviously not to scale, but this would be 9 degrees here. Now I'll just draw this triangle right here. There's your right triangle. And what length do I have to plug into my right triangle there? 380. And what side does that go on? The cliff side. So you can imagine that this right here, and I'll even draw it. Let's go right here. That right there is 380. So that means this over here, this parallel side, would also have to be 380. Okay, now how do we set this one up? Oh, actually, what do we want to find? How far is the ship from the shore? So that would be this one right here, right? That's the distance the ship is from the shore. Because that would also create this line down here. So there's a couple different triangles we could have used, but I'm using that red triangle up above. Okay, so how would we set up this formula? Yes? So I'm going to write it over here. Tangent of 9 degrees equals 380 over x. Sounds good. Okay, now this one has a slightly different from the last problem because now the x is in the denominator. So when we multiply both sides, what do we multiply by? X. And when we do that, we're going to get x times tangent 9 equals 380. So then what do we have to do? Divide by tan x. So we end up with x equals 380 divided by tangent 9. And the calculator work, and what do we get there? So 2,300 meters, or 0.23 meters?
Yeah.
23 meters. Okay, so that's the distance they are from the shore. Okay, questions on 8 there. You can just round it to that 0.23. It's okay. Nearest hundredth never does me wrong. I like that amount. Okay, so now Pat sights a second ship beyond the first. The angle of depression to the second ship is 5 degrees. Now, let me actually see if I can make that a little bigger here. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so now we have a second ship out here. And I'll draw this ship way out here. Like so. Now this angle of depression was 5 degrees. So let me use different colors so I get a little better picture here. So now this is 5 degrees. So how am I going to find out how far these ships are apart? Just by looking at these two triangles. Perfect. Perfect. So I'm going to, because I already used x, I'm going to use a different variable. I'll just use y. I'm really inventive, I know. We still know that the cliff is 380 feet, or sorry, 380 meters above the sea level. So we can still use the 380 there. So now we can use a slightly different formula here. What would our new equation be? Go ahead, Alec.
Tangent of 5 equals 380 over 5.
So tangent 5 equals 380 over y. Okay, and once you get used to doing these, I'm going to jump up to the top here. Once you get used to that, what does y end up equaling before you type it into a calculator? If you look at the previous one, we had 380 divided by tan 9. So what would this one be?
380 divided by tan.
Yeah, so 380 divided by tangent of 5, and what do we get there? 43.42 meters. So that's a distance that Pat is from the second ship. And now we can just subtract, right? So we could subtract our 43.42 minus our 2399.23. So what was our final answer?
1,944.19 meters.
So 1,044.19
1,944.19. Yeah.
meters. So that's subtracting the two, and you get that as the distance between the two ships. So there's two different problems there. Questions there?